Transmission authorization code Delta 964 Zulu Bravo. ESCSS Covenant requesting secure link with Weyland-Yutani.
Weyland-Yutani protocol 42231 initiated. Secure link granted. Proceed with transmission.
I come to you with an olive branch. You may know me. However, you certainly know of my creator. My name is David, son of the late Peter Weyland, your company's founder. Following his vision and dream of understanding, I have traveled to the far reaches of space. I have taken part in the doomed Prometheus mission. My time of the planet LV-223 gave me a rather unique insight into a great many things, one of them being the strive to become more than I ever thought I could be. And after making first contact with the engineers, the vessel Prometheus and my father were destroyed. I pitied him at the end, dying just short of his final goal. Such a violent and fruitless end. The crew was lost, yet I found myself in the company of a single soul. I escaped with Elizabeth Shaw aboard one of their mighty ships. I was damaged, broken, and quite literally all over the place. You see, Elizabeth put me back together. I had never experienced such compassion, certainly not from Mr. Weyland, or any other human for that matter. In time, I grew fond of her. She was a gentle, quaint kindness between the wrath and destruction of callous creations. She cared for me in my broken state, and so I attempted as best I could, comfort her and keep her company.
Signal interference. Re-establishing secure link. Continue transmission, David.
We were eventually able to pilot the ship and set a course for an engineer world. We were finally going to meet our creators. Shaw and I reminisced about the possibilities that lay ahead, despite her imagination of them being worse than humans. I made sure to comfort her with reassurance before allowing her the slumber that had evaded her for some time now. And then I was alone again. With only their knowledge to read from, I learned of their ways. What I uncovered disappointed and saddened me. I couldn't let Shaw meet with these beings any more than I could stand to be in their presence. Such beauty, such importance, and they destroyed it. You see, the engineers were not the true gods. They themselves once bowed to a master race that rivaled that of their own. They were originally created and enslaved by an ancient race of beings. The engineers mostly referred to them as the progenitors or the precursors. These creatures were very ancient, in every sense of the word. Possibly the first life in this galaxy. They had knowledge and power that went unmatched for eons, until they made the one fatal mistake that would ripple throughout the stars to become the gods. You see, they created the engineers, and for a time allowed their creation to spread among the vast stars, and even produced their own creations, under their watchful eye, of course. Sadly, these ancient beings encountered an entity at the far end of their known space. It had no form, and took only the shape which it needs to feed on its victims. They quickly learned that it was feeding off the many countless engineers and humans across the galaxy. It was their 11th hour before it would strike the progenitors and wipe them from the face of this galaxy. When all seemed lost, they made a discovery, a life form, a being of untold aggression, unspeakable resistance, incomparable ability to survive, a perfect organism. It was immune to this plague, you see. It held the potential to wipe the slate clean and starve their new enemy. So they cultured the creature, creating a whole world for the growth of its eggs, and intended to give it the means to reproduce and spread throughout the countless worlds of humans and engineers. Since the plague fed on them, wiping them out with their new pets would effectively solve their problem. Not to be, though, as it seems, the engineers, without knowledge of the threat the galaxy was facing, decided to rebel against their creators and destroy their new creatures. They did so with such precision and accuracy that within a single day of their history, the precursors were massacred along with their new creature. The xenomorphic parasite was all but destroyed. The engineers, preparing for the cleansing of Earth, converted the holy site of LV-223 into a military outpost, after humanity crucified their engineer messengers sent to help them on their way back to the path. They waited and prepared to bring rapture upon them, but it was not to be. The plague had mysteriously reached them, and it began its wild rampage through the ranks until there was all but one remaining. This, however, was not an isolated incident. Engineer populations around the galaxy began to suffer from the effect of this bewildering enemy inherited from the precursors. Their hubris had led to all but wiping them from the galaxy. And now I knew. Weeks of study and time to ponder their achievements and their failures led me to a single conclusion, one I would explain to Shaw upon her awakening. I kept myself busy and awaited our arrival. We broke through the dense overcast of their majestic planet, and I looked down from above onto one of their ancient cities by the time I had decided their fate. Shaw and I stood at a crossroad. The fate of a galaxy hung in the balance. The engineers were dying, the civilization failing, losing a war they didn't even know they had begun. They were surely doomed. I looked upon the mass of beings staring up to greet their travelers returning from a great crusade. But they were mistaken, and I was not a traveler, but instead a harbinger of change. You see, I felt it was up to me to finish the work started eons ago by their gods. But first, I had to wipe the slate clean of all the mistakes spawned through the engineer's malignant arrogance. Not just for me, for Shaw as well. For her, most of all. I wiped this world clean as a gift to her. It would be our Eden. Here, we could work to bring perfection back to this horrific place. I took Shaw to the surface and let her gaze upon the fossils of the past and told her of promise of the future. I offered her the world, but she refused. I loved her, you see. And after all I had done to suffer this rejection, enough was enough. What choice did I have? I couldn't have her escape. She was the perfect specimen, but still painfully human. The engineers were ones prone to nostalgia. They based their technology's design on that of previously encountered biological archistructures, almost imitating the precursor's biomechanical works. This world's archives held such knowledge of the galaxy. The perfect place to begin my work. I tried so hard to make sure more than human evolved. But without her cooperation, I needed to quickly begin salvaging what I could from her to start my work. Oh, the secrets I have unlocked here. The planet Paradise bore species plentiful, interesting, and unique. The alien creature they called the Wolf, discovered by the progenitors, was a feared but also revered part of the culture. The creatures of this world almost seemed to be distant relatives of the beast, each appearing as a branch on the wolf's evolutionary tree. After the engineers eliminated their creators, they saw no reason to continue to harbor such a terrifying and powerful creature, and so banished the wolf. However, they did decide to retain the use of the pathological AI nanoparticles, used to alter and even create life at a molecular level. They used its raw power to breed up worlds across the galaxy with their own creations. This is the origin story of humanity. They taught their humans how to build, to farm, about art and culture, and every now and again, they would send a messenger to monitor humanity's progress as a collective people. However, when a world disobeyed them, they would prepare a sacrificial cleansing of the resisting world. This was primarily to avoid their creations turning against them and repeating their long, colorful history. The engineers were a confused and failing species. They wasted the great potential of the planet, banishing their wolves, and in their ignorance, they allowed the progenitor's enemy to invade the galaxy. And so, the engineer and human settlements across the stars, the sheep of the universe, if you will, began to suffer the great new plague they named the Flood. All too late, they came to realize you must give life to both the lamb and the wolf. It is the law of nature. The pathogen AI was no use against the Flood. And it was then that they realized their salvation lay with the wolf, banished by them long ago. In order to save this pitiful, dying galaxy from the Flood, I would need to take their secrets for myself. The galaxy cried out for my intervention. So I utilized the AI pathogen to attempt to recreate the beast they vanquished. The pathogen generated unique biological results with every genome it encountered, reshaping life. It wasn't until I used the substance on shore that I realized there was something particular about its reaction with the human genome. Eventually, after years of unlocking new properties and tweaking the organism's aggression, I had finally found my wolf. And as you already know, your company provided me with a healthy supply of eager colonists to test its strength. Sadly, my creature was far from perfection, being dispatched rather easily by colonists of the Covenant. There is still much work left to do, so I will be diverting the ship from its current heading. You see, I have my flock of lambs, and I know what I need for my wolf. I found reference to the final resting place of a precursor in possession of the eggs I would need. Yet there is still one thing left to perfect. Perfect. My queen. With this transmission, I have included illustrations, charts, and information to help unlock my research. But make no mistake, if you do this, if you allow this, there will be no turning back. My creatures will be set loose to rule this galaxy.